Okay, Avery, let's see if we can kind of catch up here a little bit. Things got busy. We're still trying to figure out all the stuff that's going on, so I'll put this video up. Find my glasses here. Okay, where we left off on our stuff was the new concepts, the concept of complementary and supplementary angles. We went through that. We talked about how complementary angles are in the 90-degree area, and supplementary angles are their totals add up to 180. And I give you examples on that. I had to move my operations back to my house because we've got problems with the heating in the church, and I should be able to fix that and get that done later here in the week. So I'll be back at the board, so it'll make things a little bit easier. In the meantime, on page 35, you see there example. We talked about the example at the top of the page, and then example 2, what's going on is that you're going to be solving for complementary and supplementary angles and elements within a group, within a total. Okay, so the way that they set this out, you should remember this from algebra. I don't know when you took algebra, but these are just basic algebraic equations and stuff. So this shouldn't be too difficult for you. So in example 2, find the measures of the angle between x and y. Okay, that are labeled x and y. So if you look down there, just following this through to find x, you notice that DBF and FBD are complementary. In other words, it makes a 90-degree angle. So if we know that in this case here, if you see there the angle DBF is 55 degrees, then that means that I've got to take 90, start with 90, take away 55, and I end up with that. Okay, so that goes into a basic algebraic equation. It's really simple. So I know what I have. I have 55. 55 plus x is going to be 90. So then I just do substitution, and that brings me to 35. Easy enough. You can see that that's where it's doing. You do the exact same thing when you talk about supplementary situations, a supplementary thing. So the example is if you find y, you'd end up with ABD and DBC, then are supplementary. So we already know what the rest of the angles around there are. We already know what they are because we've done the angle FBE, which we found to be 35. So we add 35, 55, and 40. Subtract all of that from 80, and that should give us y. So the algebraic equation in that is y plus 55 plus 35 plus 40 is equal to 180. So you obviously add all those together, it comes to 130. Take 130 away and you end up with 50. So just a real quick cursory run over the things we're doing. It's simple. It's a simple algebra. I'm sure that you've done it before already. So then to move to the next thing, we've got to get the next concept in this situation. Complementary angles, the bottom of the page. Complementary angles and supplementary angles are related to each other by their angle measurements. Angles are also related to each other by their positions relative to each other on the same plane. So at the top of the next page, you see in there an example of two angles that are the same, that are on the same plane. They share a vertex. The vertex is S. Okay, so that means that the sides share no interior. Excuse me, I gotta find this up here. Okay, they share no interior points, so those are called adjacent angles. So in that diagram, TSL is adjacent to LSM. TSL, LSM. So you can see the 90-degree angle and then the acute angle that's on the right. Okay, and then of course it's also adjacent to TSR or RST. In that situation, it's still adjacent. They're adjacent angles there. Okay, so then adjacent angles whose non-common sides or opposite rays are a linear pair. Okay, so in other words, if you look at RST and you look at TSM, RST and TSM, they share a line, right? They're that 180-degree line. So then they, in that situation, as a linear pair, they're also because of what we just talked about. Those are supplementary angles. Okay, so identifying then the pairs in example 3, you identify two sets of angles and one linear pair. You can see through all these things. I'm not going to go through the examples 3 and 4 with all kinds of specificity. Just look over example 4 and recognize the algebra that's there. All of that stuff is simple substitution. You know how to do that. You do the same thing to both sides of the equal equation. It's all simple algebra as you go around. We already talked about some of this before when we were doing some of those exercises. That was to kind of get us ready for this stuff and to reestablish those equations for us. So go through the examples, make sure that you know it. So one of the things that's important to understand about this is that when you're talking about these angles, is that you can use these things in building. And so an example at the top of the next page there in example 5 is a bridge abutment that's there. This can also be used, I've used this same process when I was doing construction, when I wanted to use truss joists for floor system. In one particular house that I put in, I had 24-inch trusses. They were 2 feet high, and they took care of the majority of all of the flooring, so I didn't have to worry about where to put all of the servicing stuff, the electrical, plumbing, and so on. All went in those trusses, and it also allowed me to span a very large area. Those trusses were able to span an area larger than anything else that I could find that would be a solid piece of wood. So it looked just like this. They basically call them bridge trussing. And so if you look there, just a simple application of what we're talking about. In this thing here, you know that X and Y plus the two of those together, if you add those together, those are 90. We know that the 50-degree angle that's set up on top and Y, okay, those are supplementary angles, right? So those, so that makes it, or adjacent angles, sorry. And so those angles then, because we know they're the same, then we can use the 50 degrees that we know, because it's going to be the same exact angle that Y is, and therefore Y minus 90 gives us the X of 40. And so those are things that you can look at when you're doing building. A lot of times the engineers will ask you for the angles and stuff. They'll do all of that stuff, and then you have to verify them as the person who's on site. Okay, so there's lesson practice. So assignment for tomorrow. In this situation, I'm going to upload this video. Assignment for tomorrow is page 37. The lesson practice that you have there. Those are all the simple things that we've been talking about. We've touched on every single one of the things that are in here, and you should be able to demonstrate all of these things. So do them, put them on a piece of paper. You may have to take a picture to send it to me. I don't think you can do this, and you certainly can't do this in Word. If you've got a drawing program and you want to do it and send it that way, that's up to you. But do the problems, the practice problems that are there before we get to the assignment, which I'll include tomorrow. So we'll go through some of the practices, and I'll figure out which ones you're going to do. But so these things here that we're talking about, if you refer to the diagrams and then find the complementary and supplementary angles, so it's A, B, C, D, and E, and all of those diagrams are there to help you. So you've got all of the things that you need to pull that off. I know we've been a little sketchy on some of these things as we're going, just trying to get things settled here a little bit. But I want to make sure that I get things from you. So make sure that you get this assignment, taken care of. I know that your hours kind of tend to be in the afternoon. That's fine as long as you're getting the material done and getting it into me. You don't want to get into a situation where you get a bunch of zeros stacked up against you here, because we'll end up with trouble as this goes on. It's going to become completely impossible to catch up. So I encourage you to stay up in what's going on across the board here. So any questions, send me an email. Just to reiterate, we're talking about page number 37. This is where we have the lesson practice. There's just a few of them there. The diagrams are all available, and those are all simple things, but it should give you a simple example. And make sure that you show all of your work. Don't send me something where you just send the answer. If you send the answer without showing your work, because I'm not there, it's just going to be wrong. So even if you get the right answer, the process is the point. If you don't do the process, if you don't walk through the process in the situation, then I don't know that you understand how it works. Okay, so writing all of the problems out and showing your work on the assignment is a critical part of this thing. So hope things are going well with you, and if there's any questions, you can get me. I'm online from 8 to noon every day, so you can see me there. If you have any questions or you have any comments, you can send it to my email. Email is frank.hansen@freedommaine.org, and I'll put that in the when I upload this video, I will put that in there as well. Okay, so you take care of yourself, and we'll see you in a day.